video file.
I don't think that is possible. Only for screen sharing, of course.
Yeah, in fact, we will for those videos we will share the screen.
Yes.
Federico, I'm since I guess Martin is sharing his presentation, I'm trying to take presenter and then I can't upload the.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too. I cannot upload my presentation now.
Is the presentation too big?
No, I think because someone else is present is showing.
We don't see the upload button or the upload.
Federico, can you see my presentation uploaded?
No, I don't see it from here.
I don't think we can upload the presentations while someone else is presenting. If anyone has.
Okay. I don't know. Do you want to try to share your screen, Jonathan, for the beginning?
Yeah.
And then keep the presentation here, and then the contributors, if they do it, they share this, or we show the presentation for them if they have any issues.
So I'm going to take presenter now. And
yeah.
Federico, we
Yeah.
may start in 1 or 2 minutes, right?
Yeah. I'm just checking if Jonathan can share the screen.
Yeah.
I think so now. It says I can't share the screen. Wait. No.
It was working. You can start sharing screen, Jonathan, and then in 1 minute we start.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. We wait 1 minute and then we will start. I think we can start. I hope you can hear me and that maybe you are all in and muted. Good morning and welcome to this first Urban Lab session of the Urban Thinker Campus on Local Green Deal organized by the city of Mannheim. My name is Federico Aili and I work for ISCARP Institute. And ISCARP Institute has been invited to organize and coordinate this first urban session on the topic of best practices for the implementation of local green deals. As you can see from our agenda and our program, we will have various contributions from different backgrounds and different countries, and the sessions, we hope it will be as interesting and interactive as possible. Just a couple of practicalities. This event is going to be recorded and is also a live stream on YouTube. So some of that and this might be also on YouTube. We have a chat box, so you're invited and welcome in every moment to write, to use it, to ask questions. And we have a last part of the sessions, which we hope it will be as interactive as possible, so we can answer to some of the questions and we can have, we hope, an interesting debate. And now, without losing any further time, I leave the floor to Didier van Kutsem, the director of ISCARP Institute.
Thank you, Federico. And thank you for the presentation. So, yeah, my name is Didier van Kutsem, director of the ISCARP Institute. This is ISCARP Institute is the research branch of the ISCARP Society, the International Society of City and Regional Planners. And I'm happy to introduce here the Urban Lab session and also the topic, and especially also the program. So, as you know, we are talking about the European Green Deal and talking about the European Union becoming the first carbon neutral continent by 2050. And it has been also mentioned yesterday during the conference held by Ursula von der Leyen. And now it's also crucial to understand how we can make this happen on the ground and how to make this local actionable projects and concrete interventions. And for that, we have prepared a program, as Federico mentioned before, with several presentations. We start with the first keynote presentation. And I'm happy to introduce here our keynote. This keynote will be followed by several contributions. Maybe you can explain the contributors. Yes, here we can see the keynote presentation and then the contributors from different parts of the world, so we can have a very nice overview what's going on and what is at the moment implemented on the ground around the globe. And with this introduction, I would like to present our first keynote speaker. It is Martin Knöth. Martin is graduated from the Wageningen University and Research with a master in landscape architecture. He is a founding partner of OCRA Landscape Architects in the Netherlands. He's an author of several publications on landscape and urban planning, is a guest teacher and keynote speakers at different congresses worldwide, and also maybe very interesting also for this Urban Lab session. He's fascinated in the design for all and climate resilient landscapes, and also focusing on strategic visions and scenarios and creating strong spatial design. So I would like to invite Martin to take the floor and present his ideas about climate adaptive urban design. Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Didier. And thank you for inviting me. It's
welcome.
A pleasure to be at this venue. Today, climate adaptive urban design. And initially I thought, okay, if we talk worldwide, we should maybe also talk about African situations. But recent events in our area made me change my mind. I must say that the floods in Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, and the very south of the Netherlands are that extreme that suddenly we are facing the extreme effects just around us. And how can I move this one? Is it not moving? And I must say that we should reflect also on this and see how can we make proper decisions in spatial planning to prevent from these floods. I feel sorry for all the damage and all the people that are hurt and even died and their families. Let's not take it just as today's news and tomorrow to be forgotten. It should be part of our thinking. And I show you this picture. This is from far away. It is the picture is from Peru, and there the Nazca civilization was just bringing water from the mountains to the fields. And this principle in all the civilizations, you can find the quality of thinking in and acting with nature. We should find it again, and therefore this second image is the sponge. The Chinese already call it sponge cities that we should design, but the nice thing of the sponge is that it can absorb water and can give water. So let's say the word is very powerful. I think that's why it's even traveling to our areas. So for all our urban interventions, maybe we should think about how to capture the water, how to prevent from flooding, and how to prevent areas that are downstream from flooding. Because all what we do in our areas that we the planners for is also affecting the downstream, and that's the most striking effect. I tried to move this one, but it's not moving. Now we're stuck in the presentation. Is there something? No. I'm clicking, but nothing's happening. I'm sorry for this.
Maybe the technical assistant, maybe we could help. Otherwise, if we have to go for another option, we will share the screen.
Yeah, it's not moving at all. Now I just see some faces of you. We wait for some technical assistance. And meanwhile, whilst you're seeing most likely nothing, my screen is now disappeared. Let's talk further. Otherwise, we have to wait that long for the technical assistance that time will fly and pass by just waiting. Let's make the best out of it. In our view, we should make cities and landscapes that are truly resilient. And of course, resilience is already now almost an outdated word because everyone talks about resilience. But what could it be? I think that within the city limits, we should aim for creating that the city is healthy so that we prevent from flooding, flash floods, have water-sensitive design, climate control integrated in design. So not the technical aspect, but what does it mean for people? So that, let's say, grandmother just can say, I'm walking in a street where there are a lot of trees and I like these trees. There's various trees and there's various planting. What people perceive, and we talk as professionals about then biodiversity. Meanwhile, I think we should also have a shift in infrastructure, a shift from a vehicular space towards slow traffic space. If we can achieve that to encourage slow traffic, make good blue-green connections where people can cycle and walk, then we make the city more attractive to move and we create space for people. Thirdly, I think we should also think about how to activate public realm. So how to make spaces that are really truly for people. So the social cohesion between neighborhoods and between people is really important. So you should connect one area to another area. Those three principles, I think, that makes cities that they are really, really resilient. Then I think there's also a competition sometimes going on with cities. Maybe it's not necessary because every city has its own identity. If you really look at cities, you see that cities have their own character. Berlin is a completely different city than Paris. We all know this. And that's why as a tourist, you go there because of this different cultural identity. And by thinking about that, we get the slide again. I think that based on this identity, we should create holistic solutions that bring in the new, link the new problems and the new adventures to the old qualities that are already there. We are now back in the presentation, and we are Katwijk. I would like to show you two examples, one at the coast and one in the rivers. At the coast, we've seen that we have storm surges, and there's a true threat, sea level rise in many places. I think it's global, that we have to address this issue. And instead of making a high dike or a high wall around the city, we should think about these urban patterns and how to link it. And that's why I present Katwijk. It's a Dutch example. In the initial situation, people were just facing that there would be a high dike in front of a small town that was for centuries connected to the sea. The men were fishermen. They came back and sometimes didn't come back because it was also dangerous work. But people really loved the sea and loved the view of the sea. And of course, because of sea defense, it needed to have an upgrade. So these engineers at one moment proposed a high dike. And I've seen this type of proposals more often. In Portsmouth in England, we had a workshop, and there was a high wall proposed, disconnecting Portsmouth from the sea. We said, well, let's do it differently. Maybe the next slide can be shown. Then we see here the works in construction. We said, let's make a landscape. Let's make a broad dune, as there is north and south of this town, and make this one as strong and create a landscape that people can start to love, because a dune is natural. Vegetation can grow over time, and in the end, after 100 to 200 years, you will not see that ever man has really made an intervention that is that dramatic as it was. I think this is the type of landscape. Here you see also at the left a place where we said, well, let's also integrate the parking problems of the town, and behind the dike, behind the dune, we create a huge parking garage integrated in the landscape, and we cover it with dune landscape as well. So now the urban and the landscape is connected. The next slide, please. And the project was realized, and I got an email from a client Far East, because every year he went to Katwijk for holidays, and he said, I was really afraid that this landscape, it would be dramatically changed into something bad. But he said, I start to love this new landscape. And here you see that just it's the early starting of the vegetation, but at one moment nature will take over. Some more slides will show the pictures of what is done. The next, please. Here you just see the entrance of the parking garage just as an artifact in the dune. And I think that the power of this type of solutions is that we make integrated solutions that connect to the city and to the town, and that we think holistically. The next, please. Now we move to London, Meridian Water. Thinking about the flash floods that there are today, we face this also in London. London, of course, everyone knows the river the River Thames, but this is just up north at the River Lee that is streaming into the River Thames. And there are some brooks, the Salmons Brooks and the Pimps Brook. And actually, this low-lying land has annually flooding. So not just occasionally, but annually. At this moment, a large part of it are brownfields, so people maybe not care too much about it, but in the end, of course, this will be a housing location. Since London is creating Crossrail 2, which is connecting the outskirts to the city center via fast trains, this area will be the largest building location of London, and it's already starting now. It's 85 hectares and 85 hectares of regeneration area of the urban area adjacent. Maybe the next. Here you see where the location is just up north in the landscape of the River Lee. Next. What we wanted to do as landscape architects is think about the water, thinking about water. Of course, the urban was already been thought of. There were already plans that there should be 8,000 homes, and at one moment it was even the program was even increased to 10,000 homes. London is in need of housing, and especially affordable housing. The water that you see, the large lakes, that's drinking water. And what's also striking, if our urbanization is expanding, in the end, we have a problem with the water, that we have drought and we have flash floods, but we also have a problem with drinking water. A city like the size of London is already hardly managing its drinking water. And we think, okay, but it rains every month in London. You shouldn't have a problem, but at one moment, the size of the city is that big. So the whole water constellation needed to be considered. And we said, okay, let's first start thinking, what kind of tools can we apply in an urban area? And the first tool is to prevent areas from flooding. There's a group of tools. That makes that you have interventions upstream. That makes that you make sure that the vulnerable parts in the building areas will be slightly higher and cannot be flooded than others. Then the second category is just to capture the water in this area. So if we have water, we should manage the water within our area. Otherwise, we create a problem downstream. So that's the second category. The third category is how to reuse water. So can we use it for toilets? Can we use it for plantation? So these categories we have indicated, and we have made a booklet with all kind of tools that could be applicable, and talk to the client, okay, what tools do make sense? Because some are expensive, some are cheap. Some are easy to integrate with urban planning. Some are maybe more easy to integrate in the landscape. Next slide, please. We linked the tools also to sections of the urban areas, and the blue-green tools. We also added some green tools because, as landscape architect, we sincerely believe that also in vegetation you can really do a lot. And made a approach that in every area you can either prevent from flooding and can infiltrate and can reuse. The only area where we can't infiltrate are the areas that are heavily polluted, because then we would affect the groundwater. So there we use different tools. So in the different areas of this 85 hectares site, you use different tools just because of the situation. Next, please. This is again an application of the toolbox on a smaller scale. Next, please. And then for the areas adjacent to it, we said, well, you also should apply your toolbox to the areas adjacent to it. So to the areas that are already built, but people just live there, and most of these areas are have a lot of pavement, have a lot of water, potential water problems. If we could do something there, and if we could increase quality of the public space, we also do something good for the neighbors. Next one. This is then again drawn on the next, and here you see what can you do on the small, really small scale. So these are the parks, and we capture water in the parks, and we in landscape architecture, we just not only make nice places, but we make them part of this water system and water sensitive design. Next, please. And one more. And here we see in the adjacent neighborhood the tools that are applicable. And of course, the tools are smaller. It's more like urban acupuncture. You can have rain gardens, you can have corner gardens, you can remove some parking places in street and plant a tree. You can change the type of planting, and you can encourage people to change their paved front gardens into green gardens. Next, please. So it scales down, and it's not only the public, but it's also the private. And in this water-sensitive design, I think first we start to think about publicly, and we end, of course, with privately. If we can make people enthusiastic of what is happening and what they can contribute, I think it will be even more powerful, because it's all about people. Here we talked also to, let's say, an action group. And the action group initially was not against the big building site adjacent to it, but they said, well, we also want to improve our area. How can we do it? So at the kitchen table, we talked to them and found small actions that they could contribute to and that they could encourage the neighbors to contribute to. And then the last one, I think, just an image of one of the streets. The street is planted, is now green in this picture. You see more green front gardens, and you see even a wadi. So technically, we can say everything is resolved. But I think the most important is that at one moment, our profession comes back to design, and we should think what design can contribute as well on the different scales and the different type of problems. I hope that we can contribute all to this type of problems and find a way to create better cities than have been created yesterday. We always should be optimistic and try to improve ourselves. And I hope this story was a contribution to the debate on water-sensitive design.
Excellent, Martin. Thank you so much for your presentation. I like very much the principles you were mentioning before at the beginning of your presentation, making cities more attractive, but also creating a new human landscape, right? Related to class and the question of nature-based solutions. Now it's time to move to the contributors. So we have several contributors waiting, and I think, Federico, that we will start with our first presenter. And please, if you have questions, write your questions in the chat, and later on we will have the debate moderated by Milena Ivkovic, and we will have also all these questions all together. Yes, Federico.
Thank you. Thank you, Didier, and thank you, Martin. And yes, please write your questions in the chat, and we will collect them. Now we can move to our contributors. As ISOCARP Institute, we have invited some speakers, but we also opened a call for contributors. So we received a high number of contributors. So you had directly the occasion and the opportunity to present your work or to share your ideas and experience. And as ISOCARP always try to do, we try to be as inclusive and international as possible. So we selected the contributors from different backgrounds, different professions, and especially also different countries to have, I think, a more rich overview of what's going on in terms of implementing actions for local Green Deal. Without losing any further time, I would leave the floor to Elsa Durieux. I hope I pronounced it correctly. She works as senior officer at ICLEI, and she builds on several years of experience in urban development, finance, public procurement, land use planning, and collaborative governance. She's also the lead author of the Intelligent Cities Challenges Guide, providing tools to accelerate and scale up the implementation of sustainability goals through local Green Deals. Elsa, I think you should be able to share your screen for your presentation.
I think I'm not a presenter yet, so I'm not able to see a screen share option.
You should be a presenter. You should have it on your right.
Oh, I've got it now.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Are you able to see my screen? Are you able to see it? Could you confirm?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you. So as mentioned, I'm Elsa Durieux, Senior Officer at ICLEI. We're a global city network of cities working towards sustainable goals and trying to encourage them to do so and provide some tools to become more sustainable as cities. And so I'll be providing a bit of an overview of our work on local green and social deals and trying to make the case for why cities and towns should really take the lead in implementing the European Green Deal locally.
Elsa, sorry, one thing, could you maybe share the presentation in the full screen mode? Because at the moment we see only the PowerPoint.
I am in full screen on my screen. Yeah, I'm in full screen from my side. Let me try again. That working? Still not. Otherwise, great if you could share my slides if that's better, because I am in full screen from my side.
Yes, okay, we can try to do it. I will try to share my screen.
Thank you.
Jonathan, can you try to share the presentation, please, that we're trying to recover it?
Yes, I'm looking for it right now. Okay.
In the interest of time, I can just keep going a little bit until the slides come back, maybe. Probably best. Right. So yeah, I'll just comment on the roles of cities and towns in implementing local Green Deal and generally in implementing sustainability action. Great. Get a presentation. Fantastic. Thank you. Would you mind moving down a slide? It's not. And one more. One more slide down, please. Could you move down one, please? Still not. Okay, one more slide down, please.
On my screen, it has all the slides.
It should be on slide 3 of the presentation. Oh, there we go. Thank you. That's still not being successful, is it? Oh, great. Thank you. Fantastic. That's the one. Okay, so we've got 80,000 cities and towns in the EU. And they're responsible for managing and implementing 70% of the EU legislation, a third of public spending, 2/3 of public investment. And most of all, they're very close to the citizens and stakeholders by providing services for citizens and businesses across a really wide range of sectors. So that gives them a really key role to play in the implementation of the EU Green Deal. They have the practical role on the ground. I think that's obvious to everyone. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so what is a local Green Deal? Well, we've seen a lot of isolated sustainability approach and traditional sustainability approaches happening in cities. So a lot of cities implementing or adopting sustainability strategies, and very often having a lot of piecemeal action on sustainability. So one department will do something, another department will do something, and it's a bit of pick and choose basis. That's good, but that's really not helping to accelerate the implementation of sustainability at a wide scale in city, and that's what we're really seeing as missing. And so in that context, we see local Green Deals as a new approach to help cities accelerate and scale up the implementation of their sustainability ambitions. And they need to do that through integrated governance and new delivery mechanisms. Would you like to move down one slide, please? Thank you. So there's key barriers that cities need to address when looking at sustainability initiatives, and a lot of them relate to escaping silos that departments might be working in. There's issues of democracy and accountability at making the transition a sustainable transition fair for everyone and involving citizens and local stakeholders in the process, and there's need for tools to address those. And so we've developed, based on case studies taken from a lot of cities across Europe who we are seeing moving in the right direction in terms of sustainability action, a number of principles that need to be followed by cities implementing local Green Deals, and that is essential principles to scale up and accelerate the transition in cities. And so those are, first of all, governance and good governance. There's a need for new integrated governance and management structures that really allow city to have an overview of what's going on of all their sustainability goals and to try and manage better what's going on already often within cities. And good governance could lead to better integration of funding, better integration of policy, better communication between stakeholders. So there's need for new models for that. And then, very importantly, integrated goals. As I said, we need cities to move away from piecemeal approaches to sustainability and sustainability lying only within one department. And so there's a need for an assessment of strategies and all policies in a cities to ensure they align. We're not talking about new strategies, new policies, new goals. We're talking about looking at what's already there in an integrated manner to coordinate better sustainability actions within cities. So that's also a key principle of local Green Deals. Then partnership, multi-stakeholder approach. Of course, the cities have a lot of power, a lot of leverage, but implementing sustainability will not happen if citizens and businesses and local stakeholders are not committed. Really, cities can act as facilitators to scale up actions within their local stakeholders group, but they can't do everything. So there's need for partnership. And then finally, there's a need for action. We are seeing a lot of cities being stalled a bit at the stage of partnership and discussing ideas with their local stakeholders. But what differentiates a local Green Deal approach from a traditional approach is that there's a commitment to action, and we're trying to get stakeholders to agree, voluntary agreements, to cooperate with cities in the long term to deliver sustainability action. So next slide, please. Thank you. In that context, I've been involved in a couple of projects looking at how to support cities in implementing local Green Deals. And if you're interested in the topic, I'd encourage you to have a look at the local Green Deals blueprint, which was published in June, which we wrote as part of the Intelligent Cities Challenge initiative, which brings together 131 cities, 36, sorry, committed to implementing sustainable actions and sustainable change through the use of smart technologies and in cooperation with their local stakeholders. And so we've developed this guidance, which provides a lot of case studies of what we mean by local Green Deals and more information on the principles. So I invite you to have a look at that if you're interested. You can move down a slide, please. Okay, and very briefly, the outline we're setting out within this guidance is a 7-steps approach to help cities get started with the local Green Deals, acknowledging the fact that a lot of cities will be starting with different starting points. So we're looking at over 8 best practice examples, which try and reflect a lot of different perspectives on local Green Deals and different ways in which the principles I outlined earlier can be delivered practically within cities. We're also highlighting some financing opportunities existing for local Green Deals, so that provides a good overview of what's available at the moment. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so I'll just be sharing a few case studies now. I think we'll be hearing from city speakers later in the session as well, but just to give you a taste of what we mean by local Green Deals and what the cities we've been in touch with, notably through the Intelligent Cities Challenge, are doing in terms of local Green Deals. Next slide, please. Great. So the first city I'd invite you to take a look at is Leuven in Belgium. So the city of Leuven provides a very good example of collaborative governance model that they're using to achieve sustainable goals. So in order to deliver its climate neutrality goals by 2030, the city of Leuven has a very unique management structure, which is designed to involve local stakeholders in all decision-making processes. There's membership to the Leuven 2030 board that's open to all citizens and all businesses in Leuven against a small fee to make it a sustainable business model. It's independent from the city itself, and it really allows to drive sustainability actions within the city independently from what's going on in the day-to-day administrative life of the city that sometimes can slow down sustainability initiatives. So yeah, a very good, interesting example to have a look at in terms of good governance model. I invite you to have more detailed look into our guide and the case study we've developed or on their website directly. Next slide, please. Great. Another city which I can share some insights into with you today is the city of Espoo in Finland. And we found them extremely strong in terms of building partnerships with their local ecosystems and their local community. I think when we're talking about local Green Deals and sustainability initiatives, partnership, what often comes to mind is collaboration with businesses or collaboration with stakeholders who are already involved and keen to do sustainability action. But what's really key when we look at the transition towards a more fair, more sustainable, and more just Europe or world, cities in general, is to make sure that no stakeholders are left behind. And so the city of Espoo is doing some really great work in terms of involving local stakeholders that otherwise don't really get a say in sustainability action. And they do this through a program. Oh, sorry. I'll just keep going. Okay, so yeah, the city of Espoo is having a very strong program to engage with local NGOs and social economy actors that usually don't get involved on those topics. So a very good example to look at in terms of fostering sustainable partnerships. Another city which we've been involved with is the city of Singapore. And that's nice to bring a bit of an extra European perspective into European Green Deal into local Green Deals, because of course the European Green Deal is European, but there's a lot of the principles of local Green Deals that can be applied globally. And so the city of Singapore, for example, is providing a very good example of an integrated national sustainability movement. They have a very strong integrated framework for sustainability with a lot of governance systems put in place to support it in parallel, It's a 10-year plan structured around 5 pillars, which cover everything a city could do in terms of sustainability, everything that's within their remit. So I invite you to have a look at that for very much of a broad perspective on sustainability action plans, really. And the last example I'll share with you, move down one slide, please. Thank you. Is looking at the action and deal perspective of local green deals. And if that's something of interest to you, I invite you to have a look at what the Metropolitan Region Amsterdam is doing on those fronts. The Metropolitan Region Amsterdam has just signed some regional green deals, they're calling them that way. And what those are very much voluntary agreements within the metropolitan area and local stakeholders to deliver concrete actions over the course of the next 5-10 years. And the reason why it's so successful is that the city has been really good at mobilizing their local businesses and stakeholders in seeing the value of sustainability within their actions. So they've used the post-COVID crisis and the chaos created by that to build on some new trends that they see emerging in various sectors, and that led to collaboration. The businesses and the stakeholders really see value in cooperating with the cities and can help them achieve their goals. So very good one to look at in terms of how an agreement and a collaboration agreement can be structured to lead to local Green Deal action. Okay, so that would be the last example I'll share with you. Very much invite you to have a look at those in our blueprint guide, or just get in touch with me if you have any questions on those case studies. If you want to move down just one slide, I'll share very quickly some concluding thoughts on what the challenges we're seeing emerging from all those actions, case studies, work we're doing. And I think it's a call for you within the debate we have after to maybe think about and share some solutions to those challenges if you see any. But very much challenges to local green deals are moving beyond silo thinking. This is really, really hard in cities and in departments. People are so much used to working in silos, and often it's more easy and more practical. But we need to build some barriers to ensure that silo thinking can help with implementation, but we still need an overarching perspective and a strategic perspective on local green deals. So how do we achieve that? The second one is financing. We're seeing a lot of cities saying that relates to the silo thinking in a way, because there's a lot of financing available for piecemeal, small sustainability actions. But when you're starting to look at integrated sustainability action in cities, financing becomes really complicated to budget for that and obtain the funds. And another challenge that we're seeing as well is how to spark a global LGD movement. So very happy to be here today with cities from all around the world. But most of our examples are from Western and Northern Europe. And it'd be very good to see how we can spread out more local Green Deal action, perhaps in Eastern Europe, in the rest of the world, and very interesting to see how that unravels. So yeah, that was for me. And thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to the discussion later.
Thank you very much, Elsa. And we will come back and also to the blueprint probably during the discussions. In the end, I would now move to the next speaker, Nicolas, who can already start sharing his screen. He submitted a contribution about the city of Madrid. And Nicolas is an urban and regional planner, expert in governance and territorial investments. He has several years of experience as a policy analyst, negotiators, and policy coordinator within the European Commission. And he has then joined the Madrid City Council, where he is a principal advisor for city diplomacy and international affairs, coordinating also the Madrid EU recovery plan. Nicolas, the floor is you, and thank you for submitting the contribution about Madrid.
Hello everyone. Just Federico, I think it's better if you deal with my presentation, because I mean it's not really easy from here. Otherwise, it would take more time to do it. It's fine for you, or Jonathan? I don't know if someone can deal with my, the slides that you have to display.
Yes.
Okay.
If you can send me some presentation rights, I can share a screen.
Federico,
I'm going to share the screen.
Merci. Okay, so so what I will try to do actually, I mean, I'm providing a presentation, but maybe the presentation to check it later on for the one that are interested in the details of the project. I will maybe rather try to use some slides and connecting with what Martin shared with us, and also Elsa, trying to make some kind of more dynamic discussion. So first, as Didier said at the beginning, every action that cities are trying to take right now are actually meaningful if they take the opportunity of the European Green Deal. Of course, I'm talking about the European Union context. So the Madrid City Council, what we did is that taking the opportunity of the Next Generation EU and of course of the next programming period of the multi-annual financial framework 21-27, we actually presented a recovery plan of the city. This recovery plan of the city is aligned with the European Union priorities, the national priorities, the regional priorities, and of course the priority of the City Council. In this sense, let's say the environmental policies and investments are one of the main pillars, if not, I would say, the main pillar of the recovery plan of the city. We prepared a portfolio of projects that is around 4,000 million euro, and it has been presented to the national central administration, so to Spain. So in this sense, we are proposing a flagship project that is the Metropolitan Forest of the city. Why metropolitan forest and how we deal with it? Here in this first slide, we can see that I mean already a city as Madrid and several other cities in Spain are above the average of let's say green areas that are recommended to have per capita in a city. But what is the difference? The difference is exactly what Martin was saying in his presentation. So it's not really about providing a green space, but is actually more on working on the urban partner and link the different green spaces that are available in order to have an added value and of course an increased impact of the functionality of these green spaces. So that's exactly what we are doing, trying to provide a green infrastructure that is actually a big ring, and you can go to the third slide of 75 kilometers around the city. Jonathan, you can go to the top slide, please. Or Federico. Voila, the third one. Next one. Voila. So, this is the logic here is to connect the existing spaces and to restore the abandoned lands in an integrated action and infrastructure. To share some objective of it, of course, on one end you have, I mean, and that's, let's say, the beginning of the reasoning around this project is to mitigate the heat island of the city. I mean, in Madrid, we had increased of 2 degrees Celsius the heat in the city in the last 30 years. So it's really a priority. So mitigate the heat island, then reduce CO2 emission. And on this, we are completely aligned, of course, with the European priority. But in reality, as we know, cities are more ambitious than national government. So in the case of Madrid, and also in line with the 2030 agenda and with alliances as the one of C40 on the decarbonization objectives, we aim to reduce of 65% the emission of CO2 by 2030, and of course to be a climate neutral city by 2050. So this infrastructure, of course, impact a lot and contribute a lot to this objective objective in terms of absorption, no, of emissions. Then the third objective, of course, is to foster biodiversity and to preserve and restore several ecosystems that are present in the city and in the urban-rural areas of the city. Then there is also a dimension, also mentioned by Martin in his example, of ecological and landscape restoration, because we have a lot of areas that are completely degraded, and it's fundamental for us, the restoration of this landscape and the ecosystem that go with them. Then, of course, it's also an issue of improving the quality of life of people. It's not just about health, of course, but it's also about the availability of public space. In this case, of green public spaces. And finally, I mean, there is an educational aspect that is extremely important for us, and so is an opportunity also to build up around this infrastructure, the opportunity to increase and foster environmental education for our citizens. You can go to the next slide, please. Voilà. Here we have some numbers now. So we plan from now to the next 2 years to plant more than 2 million trees. The ring will be of 75 kilometers, as we said. That correspond to more than 2,000 hectares. And you can go to the next one, please. Voilà, and the logic is this, no, to connect the existing plot. Now, taking the points, let's say, or the structure provided by Elsa. Let's say the pillar of the action to create an ambitious infrastructure like this. So governance, integrated goals, partnership, and action. First of all, of course, the issue for us was to create a system of governance internally in the city council that was effective, no? And this, of course, it's a big challenge in a municipality like Madrid that has the same number of employees of the entire European Commission, no? So for this, we created an internal transversal structure involving the different areas of government, and so not just let's say the environmental relevant department, but in reality the employment department, the economic department, of course the international one, etc. So all the departments are working, collaborating together under one leadership that is coordinating, so we created a transversal structure that breaks completely the silos within the municipality. And for this, actually now creating, after the push that comes from the municipal authority, an external structure that could be managed by a secretariat. Then, of course, there is the issue of integrated goals, and here, as I was saying, it's about mitigate its island, improve air quality and reduction of CO2 emission, not just CO2, foster biodiversity, environmental education, etc. So, and of course, creation of employment. It's also a key aspect, because this green infrastructure has to be created and maintained. Now, another element that is the territorial scale. So it's not just about integration of different action within one infrastructure, but also it's the integration of this infrastructure at a larger territorial scale. In this case, it's the integration with the regional scale of Madrid. And so what we are doing is connecting this 75 kilometers of green ring with the wider regional scale, especially in terms of parks and agricultural areas. So we are, in this sense, bridging also the agricultural system from urban to rural. So that's a very important added value that you can reach if you not just integrate the action, but also scales. And then partnership. You can go to one of the slide number 14. This is the regional integration. Can go to the line number 14. I think that Federico can after share the presentation, so you can go in details, especially to see how you can. 14. Voilà, voilà, merci. Yeah, so that's the third point, no partnership. So partnership is absolutely key. So here is, as we said, no, it's not just about the public competence and the institution, but is absolutely it's much more about multi-stakeholder approach. So in this sense, what we are doing is to involve, first of all, the citizens association, because this is an infrastructure for citizens. We don't forget this. And this is not just about the impact on quality of life, but it's also about employment creation and education. And then, of course, there is the one of the main actors, actually, especially in terms of guarantee ensuring the financial sustainability of this kind of action, that is the private sector. So, as we know, the private sector is extremely interested in collaborating with the public and especially using some investment that they cannot do in terms of financial sustainability that the public can do and complement it. And also there is an interest of social corporate responsibility. So in this sense, the partnership with the main enterprises of the country, by the way, and of the city are coordinated by a structure that's called Future Madrid that is collaborating with the municipality, and we have created a dedicated program called Replanta Madrid, where the private enterprises are actually financing the plantation and the maintenance of the structure. In exchange, of course, of the recognition by the municipality of their contribution to reach the goals of the municipality, of the European Union, and the 2030 agenda in terms of reduction of CO2, that is translated actually in fiscal support from the city. So this is extremely important to guarantee the feasibility of the infrastructure. Finally, but it's not, a minor point, is the support of the universities, because they are helping not just in terms of educational programs, but also in the capacity of fostering a systemic approach among the different partners, seeing the benefit of having of complexity. So that's extremely important, because it's not just their duty in fostering environmental education, but it's also their capacity in articulating different stakeholders in having a systematic approach, and so fostering a behavioral change in this sense. Now, last slide. Currently what we are doing, and this is more about the action that, of course, also it has also be integrated action. So in one sense is that one point is that we are implementing actually the different activities in the 5 areas that are, let's say, the core areas of intervention to connect to the existing green areas, and this has been done through an international call. So also this is a significant partnership activity. So we're implementing this the activity in these 5 areas. Then we are articulating, as I was saying at the beginning, the activities, the implementation of this project with our policy and budget priority in line with the EU Green Deal and the Spanish National Recovery Plan. And then, of course, but this is a slide that you can see in another moment, but it's actually very interesting, is how we are now composing and try to recompose actually this 75 kilometers of ring by also acquiring some plots that are jeopardized in the infrastructure and that actually have a private level. So this, you can imagine, is extremely complicated for us, especially because we do not have legislation like the French one that can allow you to expropriate easily. So that's a complicated one. And then developing the sponsorship with the private sector and improving programs of training and employment creation with our employment agency and the citizen association. And finally, the setting up this external structure that will manage the project in the years. Well, that's so many things, but I think it's already some points connected with the important thing that Elsa was saying: governance, integrated goals, partnership, and integrated actions.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicolas. We might change slightly the order of the contribution since we're a bit late with the time. The platform is new for us, so we have had some issues. And I would move now to Valentina Dalonsa. She's a postdoc researcher in the field of sustainable energy planning, strategic environmental assessment, and spatial analysis using GIS. She has been working for several years in the interdisciplinary research group, Urban and Regional Energy System, at UREC Research in Bolzano. Valentina, are you here? I can also share your presentation in case you have some issues.
Hi. Yes, I will try to share my screen. Let's say if... Okay. I can only upload or I can share. Maybe. No, okay, maybe it's better than you share the PowerPoint, yes, please. Thank you. So yeah, in the meanwhile, thank you for inviting me. As Federico said, I'm a postdoc researcher at UREC Research. That is a research center located in Bolzano, Italy. And today I'm going to present you the Varsities project, whose title is Visionary Network-Based Actions for Health, Well-being, and Resilience in Cities. So Varsities is an Horizon 2020 project. We are working with 25 partners, and the leader partner is the Telecommunication System Institute of the University of Crete. It's a 5 years project. Starting in September 2020. Next slide, please. So yes, Varsities is a very holistic project that wants to integrate different aspects. So future cities, since the solution that we are going to develop will foster a healthier, sustainable, and resilient urban future in the pilots. The project will deal with green public spaces as people-centered areas, supporting creativity, inclusivity, health, and happiness of the citizens. It's an human-centered project that puts citizens and the human communities at the center of its vision. And it deals also with smartness and resilience, since the network-based solutions will be integrated with smart devices and will be also exploited digitally. Next slide, please. Okay, yes, this is the general approach of the project. So the the varsity's main aim is to develop and to test this universal, scalable monitoring, evaluation, and replication framework for different scales of network-based solutions to bring the pilot cities to future cities. The main objectives of the project are to design these visionary network-based solutions, to monitor and assess the sustainability and the impact of these interventions through some KPIs, to improve the sustainable transition, as I said, of the pilots to future cities through this framework composed by governance, healthy city helix, and an ICT platform. Sorry. This will be done including different stakeholders in a co-design process. So we have citizen stakeholders, we have industries, businesses, researchers, and also other NBS projects. And the last objective is to advance innovation across different urban scales. On the left, you can see that our pilots are at different scales. So district level, site level, and large scale. And that this will be done exploiting network-based solutions from different perspectives. So digital, social, and cultural perspective. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are our pilot cities. They are all around Europe, and they will test and implement a set of innovative network-based actions that we called visionary solutions. Next slide. So now I'm going to present you some of these visionary solutions to show you what we are talking about. So, for example, in Castelfranco Veneto, in Italy, the project will deal with a healing garden for elderly people and people suffering from Alzheimer. And one of these solutions is to analyze and monitor the psychological and physiological well-being of these people through some cognitive tests, learning machine algorithm, and ICT component. Next slide, please. And while here we are in Dundalk in Ireland, and the project is about a library and museum quarter. And one of the solution is to create an outdoor learning pod to showcase newest technologies and to host shared functions for the citizens. Next slide. Here we are in Zira, in Malta, where the project will address the requalification of a high traffic road with microgreening interventions through a participatory design process with different stakeholders. Next slide. Okay, last example in Novo Mesto in Slovenia. The project will address a sport and recreational park, and one of the solution is to interconnect sport, recreational, and therapeutic facilities in one place in this park. And here the target group are the disabled people. Next slide. So, okay, to conclude, I would like to show you the implementation process of these visionary solutions. That is also really linked with the work package 3 activities that we as URAC are responsible for. So we started from the draft of the WS as they were in the project proposal. We set then a knowledge baseline, collecting several quantitative, qualitative, and spatial data. Then we just had a first round of co-creation workshops in the pilot, And now we are collecting the output of this workshop to understand the local needs, barriers, and challenges to the WS implementation, mainly through the one BEST-PRACTICE and one SWOT analysis. Then we will refine the design of the solutions for each pilot. We will have a second round of workshop in November probably, and when we will analyze the multiple benefits produced by each of these visionary solutions and their impact on the sustainable development goals. And finally, we are of course already working with KPIs, but we will set a defined set of indicators for the implementation and the monitoring of these actions. Okay, so next slide. I think I conclude my presentation. I would like to thank you for the attention. And if you are interested, if you are curious, and if you want to be updated, you can reach us and the project on different channels. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valentina. And yeah, nice to see the work that we are doing anyway together in Varsities. And I would move now to our last contributions. We also had 2 videos, but yeah, due to the time, we will upload it on our channels and on our knowledge base. I would move now to Milan and to Elisa Torricelli. Thank you for joining. She works as project officer for the Resilience Department of the Municipality of Milan. She participated in the implementation of local climate strategies for the city of Milan. And she also works as an urban planner, contributing to the design of various master plans in various municipalities in Lombardy regions. I will try to share my screen again. Okay.
And because we are a bit out of time, we can skip maybe some slides, but I will tell you. Thank you very much.
Can you confirm that you see it?
Not yet. Okay, thank you. So today, I'm going to give you just a brief overview of some of the main plans, strategies, and projects from our green and resilient Milan. So in the next slide, first of all, the City Resilience Department is located inside the Environmental Transition Department of the Municipality of Milan, which represents, let's say, a uniqueness at the national level here in Italy, and was born in September 2019 to group all the functions dealing with climate change, environment, and environmental quality. On the next slide, one of the main strategy for a green and livable Milan is, of course, the City Master Plan, Milan 2030, which has been published at the beginning of 2020, and which describes some of the main strategies regarding building, land use, green, gas emission, and so on. Next, sorry. Okay, you can go in the next one. Thank you. So in terms of environmental quality, the plan has identified some of the main lines, spaces, and corridors to make room for a widely connected green and blue infrastructure in the city, in order with the aim to reintroduce nature in what is highly densified cities such as Milan. Nowadays, these maps serve as a guideline for the administration for all the forestry, green, and the paving intervention of the municipality. In the next slide, as regard for buildings, this article, you can go on in the next one. Thank you. Okay. The Article 10 of the Road Plan of the City Master Plan sets new quality standards for both new buildings and for their regeneration. And it's the standard for both for the reduction of CO2 emission using innovative and alternative design elements, renewable energy and energy efficiency principle, and sets the carbon neutrality for the new constructions. In terms of adaptation, the article introduces an index, which is the Climate Impact Reduction Index on the right side of the slide, that new and renovated buildings must reach in order to reduce their impact on climate. The index can be reached, of course, by adding natural surfaces on the ground or on the buildings, for example, using green roofs or green wall or permeable surfaces and so on. Okay, in the next slide, we can see the other most important plan for the city of Milan, which is the Klamath Plan, which integrates for the first time both mitigation, air quality, and adaptation, in order to define which is the roadmap to become a carbon neutral city by 2050, and to contain the increase of urban temperature within 2 degrees by 2050. So in the next slide, we can see the plan identifies 5 main focus addressing 5 different topics. Today we concentrate on the 4th, which is the Cool Milan, for a cooler, green and livable Milan. This focus identifies 2 goals, which you can see on the slide. The first one, urban cooling and reduction of heat island effect in the city, and the second one, Milan sponge city. Okay, the next one, of course, for the focus, for the goal of a cool Milan, it's involved forestry. And with this goal, Milan started in 2018 its urban forestry program, which is the Forestami program, with the goal of planting 3 million trees by 2030 in all its metropolitan areas. So not only the municipal area, but the metropolitan area, which means an increase of 5% of the tree canopy and an absorption of 5 million tons of CO2 per year. Today, in July 2021, Milan just reached the goal of 300,000 trees planted in this area. Okay, we can go on the next and skip the next. Okay, you can go on one other. Okay, so for the goal Milan Sponge City, the administration started to elaborate a depaving, what is can be called a depaving program, both to define a possible quantitative goal of gray areas that could be depaved, and also to experiment innovative environmental quality project for the city. In the next slide, we can see that so far, thanks to the area already identified in the maps already produced by the municipality, for example, in the city master plan, and with the mapping that the administration is elaborating these months with the aim to identify other impermeable areas that could be depaved, has been mapped in total more than 400,000 square meters. Of course, in real number, not so all these areas can be depaved, but depending on the type of the function of areas, maybe 100% could be depaved, or 50% or 30%. So assigning what is a coefficient, we can say that more than 200,000 square meters could be by now depaved in the municipal area of Milan. Okay. We can go on the next. Just to finish with a brief overview of what are two social interventions, which are Piazze Aperte and Strade Aperte. Piazze Aperte is a project launched in 2018, thanks to the collaboration with Bloomberg and the NACTO, and is a project that, thanks to the use of the principle of tactical urbanism, aims to bring public life back to the center of the neighborhoods by replacing, for example, what were parking lots or too large streets with seats, play areas, green, and a lot of color. And some of these, by now, more than 27 spaces have been converted with this principle across the city, and some of them already finish what is their temporary phase of this principle of geotactical urbanism and have gradually been converted in public sphere with more structural design elements and interventions. On the next slide, the last project is Strade Aperte, which is a project born in 2020 as a reply to the COVID emergency, like we saw in many other cities across the world. It consists in the creation of bike lane using the principle of tactical urbanism again, making space in the street for bicycle in a really fast and efficient way. In numbers, in the last slide, we can see that last summer, during the first COVID emergency, 35 kilometers have been created, and by the end of the year, they reached 67. This is by the end of 2020, not by the end of 2021. It's an error. And by the end of April 2021, were almost double, so more than 100 kilometers were planned for the city. We can say that this is an evidence of the need both for demonstration, but also for the population, for the citizens here in Milan. So thank you. This was an overview of what Milan is doing these years, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the nice and very interesting presentation about Milan. I leave now the floor to Milena, which might have some comments, and feel free to ask the questions in the chat.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Federico, for inviting me to be the moderator in this session. Just a very short introduction of myself for those who don't know me really. My name is Milana Ivkovic. I'm an urban designer and civic participation innovator from Block 74 here, office based in Rotterdam, and someone who is very much dedicated to small-scale climate action and placemaking in this city, but also across the Europe and internationally. I have really noted a lot after this series of presentations, and we started with really fantastic keynote explaining what are the, let's say, the basic principles of how to make these let's say integrated solutions for climate action. And what I have seen in all the presentations are really great efforts on the city level and on the regional level to foster the climate action and to change not only how we plan and move more towards integral urbanism, but also I've noticed a lot of institutional changes within the cities itself. It's also something that we saw in the presentation from Clay, pointing out that we need to the cities need to go out of the silos in order to make the really the changes on the ground. But what I would like to ask some of those speakers, because I don't see much questions coming through the chat, sorry, is how do they see actually all these small-scale actions happening, which are very much loved and very much fostered by the NGOs and the citizens? They're very palpable. They relate to the neighborhood. How do they see that? And is there in the citywide strategy something that deals with this acupunctural or, let's say, tactical urbanism actions? That my first question goes. That question goes to Nicolas Garbi. If you can just maybe give a short feedback on that. Is there a strategy in Madrid how to integrate also those small scale? For instance, how to connect them with this great urban forest project that you're making? Nicolas, you're muted, I think. Oh. I can't hear you, Nicolas. Can we hear Nicolas? All right. Difficult.
Does it work now?
Now it works.
Voilà. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Well, thank you very much for your question, Milena. Okay. So yes, I mean, it's completely part of our strategy, especially in terms of developing a partnership and ensuring that the bottom-up and citizen initiative are connected since the beginning, with our wider strategy for implementation. Now, the thing is that there are several ways to do it, and the main one we are using is to channel the initiative of urban agropuncture, as we call it, through the participatory budget of the city. So we have a citizen association that in reality is collecting several district level association, and they are, let's say, the one coordinating together with the municipality and with the district, through the different decentralized district of the municipality, the participatory budget process. So we are channeling through this way. That's the main one. And then, of course, you have other channels that are more hybrid, like the educational one, the employment one, or even the private sector one.
Thank you, Nicholas. I was really curious on those tools and methods that you're deploying, and thank you for this explanation. I see that our time is running up. I will still use several minutes that we have, and I've heard from the technical assistants that we have extension to this, so we can continue for another 10 minutes. I was very much pleasantly surprised with the efforts of ICLEI and the blueprint for action, which they are making on the European level, and the several case studies that Elisa was showing us. I'm also quite curious to see, maybe that's a question for you, Elisa. When you pointed out the case study of the ESPO and how they actually reached out to those lesser heard NGOs, which are quite essential when we're talking about the action on the ground. And when we are talking about reaching out to wider citizens and other stakeholders, smaller stakeholders, can you tell us maybe a little bit how the city of Espoo has, what kind of method they applied to reach out to those NGOs? Do they have some kind of register of less heard NGOs, or are there some tools for that? Because I think a lot of cities are struggling to reach out those ones who are maybe not having that big mouth as other NGOs.
Yeah, so I think they reach out not only to the less heard NGOs, but to all NGOs generally. Right. So they have a register of NGOs, and I think the city is particularly active in terms of the number of NGOs they have. Can't remember the number, but they have thousands of registered NGOs within the city, and they're able to be in touch with all of those. No, I think they're doing some direct outreach, so contacting NGOs, and I think they also really much cultivated a culture of and built some trust with their local stakeholders. So it's been a long-term process of them being seen as a responsible and responsive partners. So they have a team that's only working on NGO relationship management, and they've delivered over time what they promised, which means that more NGOs are more confident on coming to them. And when the NGOs come to them, that's when they mention sustainability, because it's linked with their participatory team is linked with a sustainability team. So they wait until the NGOs come, and then they mention sustainability.
Yeah, thank you, Elsa. I would like to conclude maybe on a note that that is what you just said, like building the trust actually is also at the core of having a successful action. If there is not, if there is no mechanism of trust somehow fostered or taken care of, there's going the action on the ground is going to be also, of course, very difficult. I would like to also do a little reach out of this European context and hear it maybe from our colleagues who are somewhere outside, active somewhere outside of Europe. wider internationally, and I know that we have some colleagues from India here, and I know that ISOCARP Institute is reaching out to many, developing a lot of projects, and has a lot of interest in India. So please, Bhagyashri, can you tell us a little bit, or give us just a little window to what are the issues, or let's say challenges, that you are experiencing when we have to talk about fostering the right environment for climate action?
Hello everyone, but I think the first thing is we are not able to create a balance between the development processes and the conservation, the natural, basically the public spaces, the urban natural resources. That is the biggest problem. And I think we're just, neglecting the public spaces. I think that was the main point here. Like if you look at all the Indian cities, I can give you an example. In the city of Bengaluru, it's called the Silicon Valley of India, and it had like around 2,200 lakes, and now only 60 survive, and most of them are in bad condition. So, and we are basically looking at droughts, like no water, like fresh water supply in next 5 to 10 years. So that is our situation as of now, and we're not doing anything. Like basically, it's more of, because we are a developing country, so our focus is more on like how do we basically generate like employment, like economy, rather than just looking at the natural resources. That is the biggest problem that we're facing as of now. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. This is something that it's really such a huge challenge. It's a challenge not only for the let's say the governmental work and planning work. It's also a massive challenge for designers, what you have just described. And designers have to work more and more integrally, trying to cover challenges that are not just physical, but also economical and cultural. I would like to end up this Q&A round with our keynote, Martin Knuit, to just have a question for him, if he can reflect on the case that you have just sketched from Bangalore. How can designers help, or what is the role of designers to kind of accelerate the process? Or what even more interests me is, how can designers prioritize when we have these kind of highly complex situations like in Bangalore? Where do you start with? There are so many issues, there are so many problems. How do you start solving it?
I think especially in cases where there are multi-complex problems, situation seems that blurry that you do everything. You're we want to do much. I think we should bring the type of problem back to if it's from a planning perspective, to, let's say, where can we guarantee the best places for living?
Right.
In Ghana, we want to start with saying, okay, we start with making larger green structures where there are already the inclinations in the landscape. So the wadis, or post rivers, or the areas that flood, and that green is not plans, but that it's part of a system that is adopted by people. So the urban farmer, for instance, can help to address functions to green zones in order that people will not build shacks in zones or land that is available. The second thing, I think, then, is also to link it to urban planning programs, where we also have solved the issue for the no-income groups. Because if the no-income groups are not part of the urban plan, and sometimes they have income, but not regularly, we know that these people will try to find their way in an informal city, an informal service. So if you want to provide, you have to provide. I think these are related. And then if we think on the smaller scale, let's say not the planning scale, but let's say the urban design scale on the small project, I think it's about thinking about projects that can be replicated. in South Africa, we found out that the only land that is still available in the areas of shacks is school land. And in Cape Town, the official thought, okay, children have playgrounds, etc. There's not just sand. So what was really interesting was we were with, on an urban farming program and on educational programs. So to turn the school land in just one school, and we're working for 7 years already on one school. There's also a project ETH through them as well on reblocking. So turning shacks into 2-story houses and create semi-public space. And these two examples which I can replicate. You get a small project that you can, in fact, because the situation is that often occurring in the city, that you can try to have next in the office and people can do it. I think those two strategies would maybe help, but this said from, let's say, our perspective, and the city in a lower, for instance, well, sometimes you're overwhelmed, but that there are so many problems and you want to do everything.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I was always asking myself, like when I'm faced with these kind of very huge, complex projects, where do I start with? You know, how do we prioritize with this? And I see that we are at the end of the session. Thank you so much for giving the insights on the on these presentations and beyond. Let's say. I would like to also thank the city of Mannheim for organizing this Urban Thinkers Campus. And I know the series of Urban Thinkers Campuses are going to continue. And considering that there is so much need and for quality discussion and interaction, I think we will have another round of this very, very, very interesting encounters, let's say. Off to Didier to close officially the session. And
Yes.
hopefully to see you again very soon.
Thank you, Milena, for the concluding words. I would like to thank you all, the keynote speaker and all the contributors, but also the other questions and also the debate and the moderator, Milena, and also especially the staff, Federico Ali and Jonathan Subendran, for your tremendous efforts to get this session really working well. And yes, keep in touch. We have several other Urban Thinker campus in the pipeline related to climate change, climate adaptation, and especially also when we are looking forward to the COP26, where the results and the contributions from everybody will be discussed there. And yes, keep in touch and check the website of the ISOCAP Institute. We have the knowledge base there, and we will also include all the presentations and the videos we were not able to present to you today. So all the best, and thank you for your attention, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
You are currently the only person in this conference.
you.